What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 20 of the Overview. I'm ChanManV, and joining me today, of course, is Mr. Everything Overwatch caster and organizer and everything, Fishstix. And joining us today also is Mitch Leslie from ESL, also a caster for all of our great EU Overwatch. And then joining us for the first time is Huck, who recently just got back from casting the OG Invitational. And those of you that might not have followed StarCraft, he's also a professional StarCraft player and just Mr. Esports too. Welcome to the show, Huck. How's it going?
Good, man. Everybody else doesn't get to talk. You're just like, Huck, you're the only one. Thank you for having me, and thank you guys. I've worked.
We take turns, all right?
We take turns.
Because he was just like Huck, and I was like, oh, this is.
I'm trying to. You're the guest. I mean, you're like our first time. I'm trying to make you feel special since it's your first time.
Anyways, what's up, guys? I'm happy to be here and excited for the topics.
Awesome. Mitch, how you doing, man? It's been a couple weeks since we talked to you.
Yeah, dude. No, thanks for having me back. Can't complain. Things are pretty busy, as you can imagine. It is so right now, Overwatch-wise, but I'm doing good, man. Got some good juicy topics to dig deep into tonight, man, so it'll be good.
And Ben, how about you? I know you just got back from Portland, from a wedding.
Yeah. I'm doing good. I have been away from my computer way too much in the last couple of weeks, so I'm trying to just catch up on everything. There's so many events that have been taking place over the last couple of weeks, so inopportune time to be very busy, but nonetheless, here we are.
Yeah, a totally busy weekend. 2 big tournaments. We talked about obviously last week on the show, but we wanted to do a recap of it, so we'll definitely be doing that. A couple community news, esports team news as always, and of course competitive mode, which will or won't be released today, not sure, but Jeff Kaplan did have this long post about, I guess, what kind of feedback they were getting and what some of the things they were thinking about doing right after the show last week. So figured we should talk about that. We'll probably kick things off with that. But at the end, we'll be doing viewer Q&A as always. So tweet your questions to @ChanManV or @TheOverviewGG, and I'll try to get to those questions. If not, if you don't have a Twitter account for whatever reason, you can type it in Twitch chat too. We'll take a couple there. Okay, well, let's start off with some community news, or just at least just big general Overwatch news. Competitive mode. So we're talking about competitive mode again this week. I was expecting it to be launched today, and on Reddit there's an actual snapshot from the EU client, a French client that did say that it was going to be launched today, but then it's been removed. So up in the air whether it's going to be launched, but there's definitely some details as to which Jeff mentioned that, some of the changes that he was thinking about making. So I figured we'd start off with that. So let me pull this up so everybody can see it. Did you guys get a chance to play competitive mode this past week? Like, I know last time, literally it was just a couple hours, so we didn't really get a chance to play much. But any of you guys get a chance to play a lot?
No, I heard it was kind of buggy, and there was a lot of problems, so I didn't want to get into it. And plus, it downloaded really slow for me. That was the biggest thing.
Oh, really?
I think that's pretty sure that's just my end, but yeah, I don't know. I assume you guys didn't play it either since you weren't so gung-ho on that answer.
Not much.
I played a couple, but I actually didn't get any of the King of the Hill maps at all in it, so I didn't get to see how that works out. I guess it kind of goes without saying the way it works. I got one assault map and a lot of payloads, so I have an idea about it. But I didn't play it extensively. No, I wouldn't say it was the cat's pajamas to me. I didn't really want to spend too much time on it.
Yeah, the King of the Hill maps just work like they used to. So it's best of 5. And once you get past the 3 rounds, it just plays 2 extra ones, if it gets that far. But I was able to play a little bit more. I was able to finally I didn't get to the sudden death round for the payload one, but was able to play the just what they call sudden death, or at least the continuation of it with the time bank and everything. That was pretty interesting. I definitely like it better actually after I got a chance to play it versus just kind of thinking about it, at least the time bank. But they also Jeff actually says that what they're planning on doing with the time bank here. So why don't we get to that? So the feedback he's been getting, which is I'm showing you on the screen here, is that they like the skill rating. Which what do you guys think of the skill rating? I think that's pretty cool.
Transparency is good. That's
basically it.
That's pretty much. Yeah, and we've seen that with other games recently too, which is really good. I would
All
like to
Blizzard titles. They've actually started pushing we want to see direct MMR in StarCraft 2, Heroes, and now Overwatch.
Which,
So,
by the way, I
hopefully-
find really funny because everyone when this game first came out was like, "Oh, they're not showing stats because they're afraid of toxicity and blah blah blah," and everyone just jumped to this conclusion as if it was the truth. And I think this kind of directly goes against that really quickly here, and across all of their games as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely like it. I think the skill rating they had in the PTR, like the actual numbers themselves, weren't large enough for me, because I think Seagull was like 70 or 69, and I mean I got rated at like 49 or something. So I think he should be like, you know, way higher. I mean, just visibly higher than you know, somebody at my skill level. So the numbers themselves, I think, could be increased to make the disparity a lot more obvious. Okay, next up was strong lever penalty, which I think everybody agrees is a great thing, because that prevents people, you know, just from ruining games, which we were seeing, you know, prior to the PTR. Thoughts on lever penalty?
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, to be honest, that it should be pretty strict. I mean, I was quite surprised. I didn't actually know that, and then I had to leave a game and go to a meeting, and I got back and I'm like, whoa, okay, serious business. But it encourages people to take it more seriously. I fail to see how that could really be a bad thing in any way.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, overall, as long as they have a good, just a good algorithm for it, because there were some issues, I think, with people idling out, even though they were actually moving their characters and using their abilities and things like that. So, I think there's some tweaks that probably still need to be made there, just to prevent, you know, folks wrongfully taking some penalty for that. Okay, assault map changes. So this is, you know, where they added the time bank, right? The 10-minute time bank. Basically, how many points, objective points, you can get within the 10-minute period. Actually, Chris, Huck, what's your thoughts on this? Because we talked about it a little bit last week, but it'd be great to hear what you think.
The sudden death or what?
The assault maps. So the 10-minute time bank thing.
I don't know. There's a few approaches they could do. Obviously, it has to change, but I don't know. I don't think I'm the best person to ask, because they're not maps I play too much, just because obviously in scrims,
people avoid them.
Prefer them.
Yeah, that's true.
And like they never play it, so.
Yeah, Mitch, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a start. I think I kind of like it. I think some people have a problem though with the idea of, like, you get a good attack time, right? And then you're going to go back and do it again, potentially, right? This whole idea of going back and rehashing what you've already done, some people don't exactly find altogether pleasurable experience, I think, especially on maps where, like, okay, I'm attacking on Temple of Anubis. This is a generally fairly stressful or frustrating, you know, part of the game to play. I found it a bit surprising when I played. I'm like, what? I'm attacking again? I just freaking wrecked them. Why do I have to do it again? But if you think about it and you look at it from the perspective of, like, well, there is a time bank and you got to go back and do this, but if you set a good time, you still have a distinct advantage. I think it's okay. I think it's just jarring when you first experience it.
Yeah, it definitely feels weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you first hear about it. I think similar to pretty much every other show that we've had, I'm open to trying anything. We should be open to trying anything, and that's the only way we're actually going to understand how it looks and feels in a tournament setting. So I definitely would encourage anyone who's running the online cups coming up over the next couple of weeks to experiment with these rule sets, because otherwise it's just us talking, right? So you know, we've seen people pub, we've seen people attempt to scrim on these types of rules, but let's see it in a tournament and then make our judgment. But yeah, I would agree that it just doesn't make sense in your head. Like, what, you know, playing the same map multiple times just seems a little off to me. But we'll see.
I wonder how much of it has to do with just us, you know, knowing stopwatch. And we already have this mindset, like, in our head about what a very good system is, or what has been the best system. Like, I wonder if people that are coming in fresh would have that same mentality. Like, what do folks that are just playing Overwatch for the first time think? Like, do you think that would be do you think this is a terrible system for people like that?
I don't think so. I think a lot of the casuals are, like, unbiased and they don't really know what's happening. I mean, the difference in play at the highest and lowest levels is drastic. So I think they would be kind of okay with it. But as soon as they get, like, you know, shit rolls down the hill, so pros are going to say they don't like it. And then, like, pretty good ranked players are going to say the same thing, and it's just going to keep going. And, you know, if the highest level pros don't like it, then no one's going to like it eventually, as long as they play it.
Absolutely right. I mean, we see this all the time, right? As well with other rules or other things. Like the viewers will pick up what people like Moon and sort of Seagull say pretty quickly, right? I think it's fine. I think if for a newer player, I still think it takes a while to get your head around it all, and it's an interesting way of taking a fairly simple concept, in my opinion, the assault maps, right? But then knowing you need to come out with a clear winner, you actually have to convolute the whole process to quite a great degree. And even this, while it may seem simpler than what it could be, it's still not that easy to get your head around. So the fact that you have to go from such a simple idea of a capture point map convoluted to this level to actually get a clear winner, it's pretty intense.
I will say, though, there could be awesome storylines built around this rule set.
Yeah.
If, for instance, there's only a minute and a half for Team A, has to cap. They only have a minute and a half left to do it, and they somehow manage to pull it out. Like, that'll be, those could be really fun, crazy matches. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. Like I said, tournament organizers, if you're listening to this, you know what to do.
Well, I think we might be seeing one semi-recently, right? Or soon, Mitch, right? Or maybe an ESL tournament. I don't know. That might try some of these things out.
Yeah, I mean, we've announced that we'll be using the competitive play format that Blizzard uses, with a small exception, and we're going to be using no sudden death, but we will be using a single King of the Hill map as a tiebreaker for that.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Let's see. The next thing, pre-made groups called out on UI. I think that generally is a good thing. It's always, again, more transparency is always great. So those are the positives. The negatives is so the general public doesn't like coin flips. And what they are talking about in particular are the payload maps that are, they do go into sudden death. It's literally coin flip as to whether you play offense or defense, and then it's just the first objective. So people hate that. You can understand why they hate that, because it's not the fairest thing. And then they don't like sudden death. So I think we covered sudden death probably to agree. So he goes on, he just talks about it a lot. And then he basically he mentions the changes that they are looking at short term and the changes that they're looking at long term. So the changes for short term are basically initial match times for Assault, Escort, and Hybrids will be reduced from 5 minutes to 4 minutes. How much of an impact do you think this will have, Ben? What do you think?
I'm for it. I'm for this change. I mean, the assault maps tend to end pretty damn quickly as is, and if you can't do it in 4 minutes, it's rare that you need that. It's rare that it's going to be a rare case that one lot more minute is what you needed. So I don't think it'll make too big of a difference, but I actually like it simply because from a personal level, playing assault in pubs and stuff like that, it does feel like it can take forever. If you're playing defense and you hold all the way up to the 5th minute and they cap in overtime, and then they have a whole other 5 minutes after that can feel a little, I don't know, demoralizing or something like that. Because it feels like you played really well for 4 minutes and 45 seconds, and then one play, it's moving on. So I don't know. I'm for it.
I think this has more of an impact, to be fair, on hybrid maps than anything else.
Yeah,
just because the kind of traction that you can gain over time while pushing a payload, as opposed to trying to attack a point that has ridiculous amounts of high ground and bastions and all that stuff to deal with, is quite different. So I think teams have less time now to decide how they're going to break the nut open, I guess, on that first point of a hybrid map. But we generally find that once teams do get the first point, they can get rolling a bit more comfortably. This is not a blanket rule, of course, but I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I just think we'll see the impact of it most on those hybrid maps.
Yeah. Huck, thoughts? Anything to add?
For the most part, the problem with these types of maps is that you have so long as the defenders that it's basically, especially in pub games not at the highest level, you're not really counting ults. So it only takes, one team battle from the offensive side where maybe they have 4 or 5 ults and the defending side only has 1, and then you just kind of lose. And that's the problem with the extended time, is that as the attacking side, you just keep going until you hit that right combination of having more ults, and then you just roll them over. Because besides the highest level, most competitive players, even in ranked play, when it comes out, they won't be, keeping track of those ults. Right. So I like the reduced time. I think it makes it more strategical to say, you know what, we either need to save ults and go die, or we need to, push in at a certain time instead of just throwing shit at the fence to see what sticks.
Okay, and then he mentioned also that they've reduced the time for sudden death timer too, which 15 seconds, honestly, I don't know if that makes much of a difference with a lot of these first objectives. So, I mean, what do you guys think of that? You think 15 seconds is enough for offense to cap a first objective for a lot of these sudden death maps?
You have 2 pushes, I guess.
Yeah,
That's about it.
yeah.
So I mean that's fine. 15 seconds is if it takes 10 seconds to res and then you have an extra 5 seconds. So you couldn't even it's not even the time to res and get to the point because you still wouldn't be at the point after 5 seconds. So I don't know how consequential it is really. I don't really know what they solidly base that on. If there's any concrete thing that makes them go, yes, shave 15 seconds off, we fix this problem. So don't know. I mean, I don't really think it affects it too much.
It's just one of these things where I think they're just trying to move the lever and see how the stats change based on it, I bet. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll see how we'll see what the stats are after this. I'm expecting these to be in the patch whenever it does come out initially. And then he mentioned some things that they're looking at long term, which have more to do with adding the time bank to just all the formats basically, except for King of the Hill. Which I think overall is a good thing compared to what they do have right now. I would like to see time bank, for the hybrids and the even the payload maps too. It's not stopwatch, but it gets closer to it. It's something that's maybe a step or step and a half closer to stopwatch. Any thoughts, Ben?
I'm sorry. I was like literally in the middle of reading something else. It just came on my plate.
No problem.
So, repeat the question.
No, basically, what are your thoughts on what he mentions is a long-term change that they're looking at, which is adding time bank, that same time bank that we see for assault.
Also to assault. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm more for that than their current solution. I'll say that much. The current solution that's being tested in PTR doesn't make as much sense to me at all. So I'm more for the time bank style than going, this is the same problem that we had when they were trying competitive mode in the previous phase of the beta as well, where it's like if both teams win, if completely different times, then it just feels really unfair to one of the two teams. So yeah, I'm totally for them going more towards the time bank style, if anything, or just stopwatch period. So absolutely.
Yep. Mitch?
In general, I think it's human nature, I think, also to disdain any sort of asymmetry when it comes to who wins and who loses a game, right? It's just straight away you see it's like, coin flip, put me on the attacking side? I don't think so. So I think this is probably the best way to address that incongruence there in general. Best idea? I'm not sure, but I think it like Ben said, it's an improvement, right? Because you are going to insta-tilt people when you literally make it a 50-50. Because some people will say, well, you can't. There's just not enough time to attack on this map. Full stop. So if you put us on attack, we lose. It's not true, but that's the mentality you start to develop in your head. Everyone gets very absolutist about it. So it's not a good way to keep your players in a positive mindset when you're fighting to decide who actually is going to win.
Yeah. Huck?
I think they covered it pretty well. I completely agree. I think it's not, no one's super happy. They're not like, oh yeah, this is perfect, but as long as it's a step in the right direction, that's the most important part.
I mean, the biggest thing about this decision, or this kind of decision to go with the time bank, is to avoid sudden death, right? The sudden death percentage was just too high. And it's kind of funny because they introduced this whole sudden death, right, to all of us as a kind of hype, cool way of ending games. And now I feel like we're just trying to get more and more away from it, with the different format changes they're trying. So it's interesting to see how their opinions have been, maybe changing just based on data and at least the feedback. All right, well, I think that's going to be it for comp mode, at least the feedback at least Jeff Kaplan had. And I'm hoping it comes out today, or if not this week, so we can get a chance to actually play it. I haven't played it actually that much the last couple of days, just because I don't know. It's just like I don't get any loot boxes when I play it. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, it kind of sucks when I I miss out on that. In fact, what was weird about when I was playing on the PTR guys is that I I would have the same 3 loot boxes I opened on the regular server. So like when they copied it, so I literally got the exact same stuff in the loot box. Yeah, it was really weird. Yeah, I was like, wait, do I get extra loot boxes here? Or but no, it was the exact same loot boxes. It was kind of interesting. All right, next bit of news. Nerf to Torbjorn on consoles. So there are console versions of this game because we always talk about PCs. And I don't know, I just wanted to mention it just because, again, like I just want to reiterate that they're balancing the game on consoles differently than the PC. And Torbjorn was a huge problem. So they decided to reduce the damage from the turrets, which I think overall is good. You know, just if you're not able to aim really quickly at killing them, then, you know, make them take longer to kill you, right? Any of you guys played on the console yet? Tried? You did, Ben, right? Or
I did, yes. One time.
One time, okay. Mitch, you watched?
I've watched a bit of actually like people like just for my interest's sake. I wanted to see exactly why Torbjorn was so broken on console. So
right.
I went on YouTube and had a look, and there were some very upset console people. I don't know, man. You know, like obviously for those who play against Torbjorns and stuff, and you want to deal with this turret. You got to sort of jiggle peek, and you sort of got to be a little bit more creative about your route of approach towards a Torbjorn turret. And then there are situations like I'm trying to flank, I'm McCree, but they put a random Torbjorn turret like out back, and I've just spotted this now and have to react to this quickly. So I was hoping it'd be funny, like they nerfed like Torbjorn's damage himself because he's so short that people have like aim down and this like y-axis aim is too hard. But no, clearly they're not that bad. Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me, I guess, in that way. It's just like, it's a different game, of course. If you play it on console, there's so many mechanical aspects that are ridiculously different to playing on PC.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I just want to know when they're going to give up on the console thing, you know? Like, I know,
Oh my
it's a little bit... No, it's like, from my perspective, I've talked to a few, like, you know, former Halo players that have, like, tried the console and stuff, and even them, they're like, yeah, I went to PC and it was so much better, and it just seems like I don't know, inbred cousin or something that's not...
I mean, that doesn't mean that console is bad,
It's
right?
not bad,
but
when
you're
you
totally
have
right,
PC,
Chris.
yeah, you have. It's like if it was just a console game, then they could just balance the game around console. But now they're balancing 2 different beasts, and I feel like they're just gonna put in like a very small percentage effort to balance the console side because it's just.
I know what you mean. I definitely know what you mean. And I kind of tried to bring it up a little bit when we were talking about even just having different competitive scenes. You know, like possibly on console and PC, and that being just kind of weird too, or you know, just again partitioning the two. It's a weird place to be, but there are a ton of console players though. So not being able to be accessible to those people, I think that would, I don't even know how much of the numbers, what percentage is consoles? It's a decent sized number. So
and on that note though, and you've hit the nail on the head. There's actually a lot of players now, whether they play this game for 5 seconds or 5 years. Blizzard's model, the way that let's think about it, where a lot of their money is made. This is an expensive game to buy, right? This is reasonably expensive, right? What 40 to 60 euros for the PC version, as far as I know, right? So I mean, games like this as well don't necessarily depend on a thriving competitive scene. To be fair, a lot of the time, if you look at the Call of Duty series, I was a very disgruntled COD 4 player who tried to find some competitive grain inside Black Ops and failed to. But those games, the model was not based on subscription or microtransactions. It was based on buying the game itself, right? So I think Blizzard's investment into maybe patching another game separately is probably justified by that initial money that they're making on the purchase of the game, which is obviously not the case with a lot of free-to-play titles.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And it's just money that they can make, right? And they might as well, you know, go after it. But I understand. I totally get you, Chris. Though it's always going to be this kind of weird thing as to which one do they push more. And I think it's pretty clear that they do push the PC one, at least competitive wise.
Yeah, I do agree with Chris though. It's not a great sign when you've got guys like MLG Puckett and like Walshy. They're all playing on PC. They're not playing.
That's
they're
true.
not playing on
man.
consoles. So
yeah.
Even T Squared from Eastward.
Yeah, T Squared too.
He was like I can't do it anymore, man. Like I tried, didn't work out. It's rough. Yeah.
Well, at least it's not cross-platform. I mean, that's one thing.
That would be if you want to.
It's like
kill the
Paragon.
console.
It's seriously Paragon is cross-platform, and it is very annoying to play with people on console when you're on PC, and especially when they're on your team. Oh,
yeah, it could be worse. That's all I'm saying. All right, esports news. Lots of team news. Ben, you want to take this? Just maybe lead us through some of the team news here.
Sure. We had an absolutely massive announcement, 2 days ago? FaZe has entered the scene and is joining the likes of Envyus, and quite a few other massive esports organizations in picking up a new Overwatch roster. And this is one of the more interesting rosters to form in quite some time because it really combines people from different eras of esports, different genres of FPS games, and it's got Mendo, everyone's favorite Mendo, the star DPS player who was part of that IDDQD roster that completely dominated the scene for a couple of months. So led by Mendo as their star DPS, and also joined by ClanManV, who, if you're a Quake fan, you definitely know this name. He was one of the best North American team players. He was really well known for his Quake CTF prowess. Among other things in the Quake scene. But then you've also got Fraud, who's a name that I haven't heard in years. This guy was a complete legend in North American Counter-Strike 1.6 in a previous era of esports. So you've got kind of like the new blood, this young Swedish teenager who's dominant in Overwatch, with two FPS veterans, kind of legends in their own right. And then rounding it out, of course, with Evoke and Vainless. And actually one guy that I don't even know at all, who's called Wonderful. So this is a really interesting roster for sure, kind of combining people from all different types of esports or FPS esports communities and backgrounds.
So is this an EU team or an NA team?
Half-half.
I mean, where are they going to play?
We are having to decide that now, of course, because there's a good chance that they'll obviously try and make it to Gamescom. It's going to come down ideally to where they reside. If they do move to NA, I mean, we have to put them somewhere, right? I think there was a little bit of a problem where I think one admin said they couldn't play at all because they had 3 NA, 3 EU players, and that sort of went a bit viral on Pro Talk. That's not the case. They will be probably put in one of the two, and if there's nothing that's definitive cause for us to put them in either one, we'll probably defer to Blizzard on that, as we often do, but probably NA at this stage.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, most of the tournaments don't separate at this point anyways, but yeah, so at least your tournament will be doing that. It's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting to see how people decide that. If it's I guess it's mostly just going to be based on the organization. But something like Team FaZe, it's something they started themselves, right? So it's not really an established organization. All right, next bit of news, another team, right? Another big pickup from a very, very successmisful European team.
Yeah, this one's also a pretty interesting pickup. The team formerly known as Graviton Surge signs with Misfits, and they were only even really known as Graviton Surge for, Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong, but a couple of weeks, right? It's got a bunch of players. I think a lot of them are coming from Sweden that have played on a myriad of different teams throughout the closed beta, open beta, and full release of the game, but only this specific roster under this specific name. I don't think they were playing for more than a couple of weeks, right?
I'll paint you the story. This is how it all went down, right? So Crew, all right, an excellent player at Overwatch, gets sick to death of playing Lucio in Melty. He's done. No more. So he leaves his team. He says, bye, Frenchies, I'm done with you. And then he looks around and he's looking for this French super team. He's got these ideas of grandeur in his head. And so he approaches Wins and AKM and Unco and says, boys, let's make it all French team. I'm obviously playing DPS. You guys can do whatever you want, but this is how it's going to work. He brings in his friend Soon, who he's played with for a while, who was actually a support player, and they make this French super team, which lasts like a week, because even though they're all French, that doesn't necessarily mean, and I quote, we may all speak the same language, but our communication was shocking. So Crew and Soon leaves. Crew says to Soon, I know you've been playing Mercy Lucio, but now you're playing DPS. So I want you to play Widowmaker. I want you to play whatever. I want you to flex DPS. And he does. And Soon is ends up being one of the best Widow players at the takeover in general. They had Zevasai on board. obviously, who was playing McCree at the takeover. He's now moved to Lucio, who he's the one who missed his flight at the takeover, and they had to schedule their game to late in the day. Skipjack was sort of handpicked by crew as a top Reinhardt as well. I think he was told, someone told him, mate, you should pick up this guy, and he trialed him and it worked out. So, I mean, this team's looking pretty good. But Crew and Soon are the core. Nevix also was a very well-known player, and he's obviously playing that Mercy for that team. So, and Wins, who's Kenny S's brother, is their, I wouldn't say coach, because I spoke to Wins. He's like, I'm not really an Overwatch expert. I'm more here for the well-being of the team and the psychological aspect. Wins he's a very classy dude. You can see that he's been around. He's got some life experience, but he's not an Overwatch expert. But he's sort of in charge of that as well. But Crew now gets to play whatever he wants. No more Lucio, never again. He flexes through every single hero that does damage, and he's pretty good at most of them.
It's another cool roster. And, I mean, it's just going to show right now in the current state of Overwatch, if you have a single tournament win, you're going to get picked up by a sponsor. Like, you're going to have them knocking 100%. At your door, calling you, just trying to sign you as soon as possible.
This was within the week of them actually winning. So that's great. It's definitely great for these guys, and just knowing that there's a lot on the line every single time they go and compete.
What I want to know is, when is the support staff of these teams going to pick up, as far as coaches, things like that? Because I feel like one of the biggest things right now, especially the way Overwatch is that coaches are going to be a huge part of this game. And there's just, right now, there's no presence of a coach. Even Envyus taking, it slightly to the next level while having a pro gaming house is done, wonders for them.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, who's got the experience to be a coach right now? I mean, to be fair, Too Strong, which is, I think, Rusta's team who started to perform well in Europe. I think MKL, the best Mercy in Norway, self-proclaimed, is their coach, who sort of started playing at the same time as them and knows a little bit about the game, but all he can offer is the same experience as the rest of the team and just a bird's eye view, I guess, a little bit. So who is coaching material right now?
That's a big deal.
Yeah, because it's an objective standpoint. When you're playing on a team, a lot of people are just selfish. They want to flank, they want to get that 5-6 kills, they want to be that star DPS player. It's a lot easier if there's a guy that comes in objectively and it's like, all right, guys, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, and it's a lot more believable from that standpoint than from another player. But it's going to come, when there's money in it. Right now, as a coach, there's just not. We talk about all these teams getting picked up. You're going to have an opportunity. As a coach, there's just so far no opportunity. So,
I think what you'll see some of these players transition.
Yeah, of
over
course.
Coach. Yeah.
The coaches, the best coaches are obviously going to come from ex-players. So
yeah, and I bet it happens pretty soon, especially the big organizations. They can pay an extra person to be on the roster, and Envyus, I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the first ones, or maybe C9, or just somebody like that. It's got to be happening soon.
Yeah, but I think Chris is right. You don't need an expert or the best player. You just need someone who can actually look at everything holistically instead of one at a time and go, well, actually, you might have thought this was the correct decision, but you didn't communicate properly this, or you're in the wrong position. So that's all. They just need a second opinion or an external one, and it's fine.
All right. Lastly, we got some news about Nubris, which is Ben's team. Hubris, which is Nubris now, and
Yep. So basically, Nubris disbanded probably 2 weeks ago now, maybe even more. And everyone was wondering what was going to happen there. So first of all, it's a little bit sad for me because it's the end of the last vestiges of the original Hubris team, which was dominant in the very first phase of the closed beta, and a team that I had a lot of close personal connections to. Now gone forever, to be forgotten, maybe. Maybe not.
It might not
we'll
be
find
forever,
out. But anyway, that's kind of sad. But anyway, it does look like Minstrel and ID have made their way over to Team Liquid. Again, Team Liquid has not had a consistent roster for more than a couple of weeks since they formed a couple of months ago. And this is continuing down that road with picking up two great players. So actually, Team Liquid looking very strong right now with Minstrel and ID joining the roster. Minstrel, of course, basically like a Lucio main, ID DPS, but really, really awesome Pharah. And right now, Pharah is so strong in the meta, so that's cool to see. But it also has us wondering what's happening to the rest of the players on that former Nubris roster, and where will they end up? Because I know a lot of them are very much interested in staying active in the competitive scene. So we're just waiting to see where that ends up being.
Overall, what would you say? Do you think it was an improvement overall for Liquid? Because I think they're a better team since they've made those changes. Even though on paper, going into it, I was like, oh shit, they lost Zoms. Like, the hell are they going to do?
Well, Zoms is a god tier hitscan character, but right now Pharah is so strong in the meta that I think this does potentially improve them. And like I said, Minstrel is practically, I don't want to overstep my bounds here, but I'd say he's practically a Lucio main. He's one of the better Lucios around. So I definitely think this rounds out the team, and they're going to get better if they stick together and continue to practice as a team. I think that's really the most important thing for them now.
I did have a question, since we're talking about, just particularly with Minstrel and some others that are specialists in certain characters, if not roles too. Is it possible right now in events to have more than a 6-man roster? Like, can you actually have 7? Can you actually sub in guys for different maps?
I think you can. Like for the Josh OG, we had a 1.
Oh, did you? Okay, that's cool.
But
okay.
but I think it's like getting to the point where would you spend a little bit more money to get that 7 player, or you're just going to get a better player out of your core 6? Because everybody out of those core 6 are going to want to play constantly. No one's going to be like, oh, I think I'm going to sit this one out, guys. Go ahead.
Right.
I mean, who knows? Maybe, let's say it's right. This is kind of a bad example because 76. We're going to talk about this in a second. 76 is really prominent, but let's say it's Gibraltar. And like everyone's running 76 all the time, and you have someone who's just like god tier with 76. I think that would be kind of cool to just swap them in and out depending on the map and depending on the situation. Or let's say like let's actually probably a better example is something like Numbani, and you have somebody who's like a really really adept Bastion or something like that. I think that would be kind of neat.
I mean, I don't really think that's. I don't even think our rule set caters for subs, to be honest. I think it's kind of something like maybe in League of Legends where maybe teams will have a 6-man roster, or like they will have subs, but they'll be declared before the tournament. So it's not so much on the spot. I mean, going back to my experience in World of Tanks Prison, I can say that there were some situations where teams wanted to bring in like a artillery player or like a player that did a completely different role, right? And for a certain map, and this did happen every now and then, but even then it was not that frequent, and it's a nightmare for league ops and tournament admins to and shit. Lower thirds are wrong if they're on stage. We got to fix the name on the little kid that has their webcam and stuff like that. It's like.
Yeah, just an interesting concept, though. I wonder if it'll ever get to that point where they do. But okay, well, let's move on. We got a bunch of events to talk about, so we were start talking about it. First off, let's talk about the OG Invitational, which Huck casted at and was able to take part and be a big part of the amazing production it was. So yeah, first off, I'll just talk to you, Huck, or just ask you, like, how was the event overall? I mean, this was like your second big event, correct, that you've casted for in Overwatch?
Yeah, I mean, me and Ben obviously did the esports arena thing, which I think at the time was the biggest tournament to date, and now it's the Josh OG thing. So they were both great events. Overall, it was great. I think the main guy that was putting it together hadn't done an event before, so all in all, really good. I think most people said the production value of it was really high, top-notch stuff. From like a talent perspective, we were treated very well. We got, what we wanted. We got food, drink, all that kind of stuff. Everybody was very nice.
And it was
like very receptive.
I think we're losing you, We're losing your audio a little bit.
Chopping it in
yeah,
and
you're
out.
chopping up a little bit. Your mic is. Yeah, we might need to
hear you right now.
an unplug, replug here, maybe, of your mic.
All right.
Let's see.
I'll do it.
Yeah. While he's doing that,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, while he's doing that, we can maybe let's talk a little bit about the matches. Well, actually, let's see how long it takes him. Maybe not. Anyways, let's talk about the matches as we wait. Obviously, the big, just kind of jumping to the end result. Envyus, wins the tournament. But I think what was really cool is just a lot of the upsets that we saw leading up to it, which were two of the teams, LG and Northern Gaming, both upset C9, which was huge. We did see C9 kind of struggling coming up into the this weekend, but having these two teams both upset them in the same tournament, like we've never seen that happen to C9. Any
Yeah.
thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. LG has beaten Cloud9 before, so this is not entirely unprecedented.
Right.
However, I would consider the NG Red victory over Cloud9 to be one of the biggest upsets I've seen in Overwatch thus far. I mean, for some reason, people didn't seem to be reacting to it the same way that I was. And don't get me wrong, NG Red has been playing very well in the last week or two. But if you go back 2 or 3 weeks, they didn't even look like they were on the same level as teams like, they were getting stomped by teams like even LG, who typically loses to C9 or has in the past. So I think that this is an incredibly massive upset and is interesting for Cloud9 because they've been at the very top of the game for such a long time. And all of a sudden, not only are they looking fallible in that, Envyus is looking quite dominant over them recently, they're looking like even teams that we used to consider, in the mid tier roughly, are able to beat them. So this is the first time we've seen Cloud9 stumble, and I'm not going to extrapolate this too far and say, big problems for Cloud9. No, that's not the case at all. But in this particular example, it is the first time we've seen them stumble.
Okay, well, we got the
Can
cams jumbled.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear
Okay.
you now.
So at least I got audio, but I'm gonna be Ben now. I
Yeah,
guess.
they got jumbled somehow. I don't know what happened there, so I'm gonna have to fix this real quick while you guys.
Yeah, no
talking.
problem.
But
I'll talk.
Huck,
yeah,
boys,
Huck,
I'm
Huck,
Huck.
continue. Continue.
Wait, who am I?
While I do
I
that.
want to.
Mitch?
I first of all, yeah, you are. I want to say I called that the NG Red.
He
I
did
called
call
that
it.
very early. I didn't jump
He did call
bandwagon. I called that very early. So first of all, sick job by them. As far as the event goes, I don't know what you guys heard and didn't hear, so I'm just gonna recap.
Yeah.
Tournament, high production quality. As far as from a talent perspective, they were rock solid. They did everything we needed to do. They were still very receptive to our feedback. Basically, we had that huge fiasco where NG Red didn't show up, or one of their players didn't show up, and they had a sub named. And then we got to this point of where do we let them pick up any ringer, or did they have to predetermine who the ringer was? Because they named a sub that left their team apparently. So then we were in a spot where do we deal with this huge forfeit loss, which is like the worst case from a tournament organizer standpoint, or do we let them just pick up any ringer? And the ringer they were going to pick up was Cool Matt, who is like, what the fuck?
Shit.
A huge difference. Yeah, exactly. Like he
Reaper
could literally
Destroyer.
make the difference, going up against LG. So then it's like, okay, well, what happens if they win and you're LG and you're like, what the fuck? Their player didn't show up, and then they got a huge improvement by some people's standards, and then they beat us. So it was hard, but all in all, the guys that ran it was actually ran from
PvP Live, right? Like in Texas, is that right?
No. The organizers from it was Josh's managers, who were Monster Cat from Vancouver.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
very cool guys. Tournament was rock solid. Yeah, I don't know what else to say besides that. It was a great experience. Would do again. 10 out of 10.
Where was it? So it was. Where was it located? It was located.
It was in San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco.
Dude, this
Okay,
makes me
okay.
so salty.
Yes.
I know.
I
You guys
lived
were
in
right
San
there.
Francisco, and I wasn't in town this weekend.
Oh
Damn it.
man.
I would have loved to have casted
Yeah,
that with you
that
guys.
was cool. Like the studio you guys were in, were had a lot of cool decorations and stuff. Definitely different than any of the other Overwatch events that we've seen so far. But you and was Kevin Naki, ZP, and
That was it.
it was just the three of you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Josh came in sometimes, gave us feedback and
Yeah,
everything. He was a
exactly.
really cool host. All in all, it was really fun. I'm a more colorful caster, I would say, and they were very not strict about things. It's kind of Josh is a very chill guy. He has a very chill stream. So they were like, hey, man, do what you want to do. And overall, it was really fun.
Yeah, well, you did a fantastic job, dude. I was just like, oh,
Thanks.
yeah. I was just like, that's good stuff right there. Especially, I was cracking it with when you and Kevin were just like going at, or you were going at Kevin a little bit during some of those exchanges. That was hilarious. But yeah, overall, man, great work, man, on that one, for sure.
Thanks.
Josh, he's obviously a community member, and of those of you that might not know Josh, he's been a huge streamer, content maker, and CSGO for a long time now. And him going and organizing this is kind of like you, Ben, organizing your Fishstix Invitational, and just somebody coming in and organizing it all just on their own and coming up with this. So really, really cool. Like it's, it kind of reminds me of like when we first started in the Hearthstone space too, and just a bunch of people starting their, these events that ended up being, very, the prize pool being pretty large just by community members. And we're starting to see it here too, which is really cool because, with Overwatch, a lot of people are talking about a lot of organizations just coming in, and being able to do their thing. It's nice to see that there's still room for community folks to get these done with the best
Yes,
teams.
for now.
Yeah, for now, of course, for now. But
there's always going to be the long tail, but yeah, we'll see as things kick into gear.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think personally, like Josh would be, we have in StarCraft 2, we have the like Home Story Cup, which isn't the biggest event, but all the pro players want to go to. And we have the Summit for Dota 2, which is similar thing. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we all know Overwatch is going to keep picking up, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. And the big tournament organizers are going to step into it. But I would love to see Josh stick into it and do like a Home Story Cup event. I think that'd be really cool, and I think Overwatch needs something like that in the scene.
Yeah, definitely. He seemed to have a great time. I mean, when he was on cam, he seemed like this was, he was just having a great time, and just how successful it was too. Yeah, he mentioned probably doing it again, right? Like having future OG invitationals. Definitely looking forward to that. But let's get back to the game. So there were some, big games, obviously, just like Ben and Huck were mentioning, Northern Gaming Red just having some, just outstanding moments. LG too. I mean, LG had, just that upset of C9 and Seagull, obviously, just the crowd favorite, was playing amazing. Farah was just like you guys said, all over the place, and we were seeing just fantastic fair play all weekend long from the Seagulls and the Tailspins and the mangas, and so it's overall, just what do you guys think of just the matches, or maybe speak to it a little bit. Huck, why don't you speak to it? I mean, you were casting a lot of these great matches actually.
Yeah, I mean, first off, we can just fucking. It's kind of boring and sucky, but Envyus just on another level.
Yeah, that's I feel bad not even talking about Envyus.
What are you gonna say?
It's just like there's not much to say. It's like they're better than everybody.
For most teams, you have like one or two players that show up really big. Like I want to say for C9, Surefour has been like the consistent star of that team day in and day out, constantly. But then you look at a team like Envyus, and it's literally like 4 or 5 members are exactly like that. So those guys are just a level above. I don't know. NG Red showing up would have been really good. I'm sad we didn't see them versus LG. I think that would have been an insanely close match. I think that would have been one of the best matches of the tournament. But I'm glad that there's a little bit more rivalries going on. I think C9 obviously have to pull it together. I think it's a combination of them, traveling, going to E3, and plus them being on top for as long as they did. As a guy that's talked to them, they're like very chill. Let's go drink a beer, chill out. We'll practice a few hours and then go hang out. Hopefully this gets them ambitious and hungry, because they're all very talented players. But you need that hunger, that motivation to stay on top. And this might be the nice kick in the butt for them.
Yeah, I think was also interesting as well. What we already had talked about it briefly was Northern Gaming Red upsetting Cloud9. What's even more interesting in that is that Northern Gaming Red won every payload map or hybrid map out of that series, and the only ones they lost were King of the Hill maps. So
that was
really quite an interesting factor if you think about it there as well, when there's obviously an ongoing conversation about the depth of tactics that you require for, between payload and King of the Hill. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm also sad, to see Luminosity and not get to play Northern Gaming Red, because we obviously saw what happened in the final, didn't we? So, it would have been nice to see a bit more contest in the semis. But yeah, NG Red are looking good. I think Magachu has really flourished with this popularity, of Farah recently as well. So, yeah, I don't know, they're looking good.
Yeah, 2 of the hottest teams. Yeah, both LG and Northern Gaming Red. It would have been definitely good to see that. Overall, though, what are the big highlights for you guys? Any big highlights, even if it's just a player from the tournament? Who would you see the MVPs were of the tournament?
Surefour, I would say Surefour, Tailspin. I mean, Envyus, I fucking the whole team. Pretty much that whole team just showed up.
Yeah.
I think Surefour played really good on C9, and Mangachu was a pretty big star. I want to say Naptime too. Naptime did a great job on Mercy.
Yeah, and I think Tailspin, he's always been a fan favorite player, but after this flurry of wins, he might be everyone's favorite Pharah player right now. And he definitely reflected in his stream numbers this week. I think he may have been hosted by Siegel or something, but he retained 10,000 plus viewers for like hours and hours the other day. So, I mean, for me, it's not really one player. It's just the dominance of Envyus. And we're going to talk about Operation Breakout in a second, but it wasn't just ONOG. It wasn't just the OG Invitational. It was also the Alienware monthly melee. Melee. Envyus literally just dominated in grand finals 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, always just dominating the entire week long. And, they are absolutely the new team to beat. Cloud9, it was them, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? And all of a sudden, Envyus actually looks on a different level to even them. Maybe it's the current meta. Maybe it's the one hero limit.
It's all of those things, I think, that have probably played into it. But yeah, this week was the snapshot of Overwatch because we saw all the best teams playing against each other, and the result was Envyus winning all of it. Speaking of ONOG,